Warning: this is a tale of love, deception, and a terrifying truth that lay hidden until it was too late. They never knew she was a snake, until their wedding night revealed her darkest secret. In a quiet village where trust was woven into every relationship, no one suspected that the beautiful, kind-hearted Zuri hid a dangerous side. She was adored by everyone, her charm as captivating as her smile. But little did they know, beneath that charming exterior lay a secret that would send shivers down their spines. Her true nature, a creature they could never have imagined, was lurking, waiting to reveal itself in the most horrifying way during her wedding night. In the heart of the peaceful village of Mbali, life had a unique rhythm. This wasn't a place like others. Here, humans and mystical creatures lived side by side, walking the same paths, sharing the same market squares, even sharing the same homes. Generations of villagers had grown up knowing that the invisible world of magic lay right beneath the surface of everyday life, like a silent river that everyone sensed, but only some could truly see. This unspoken understanding knit the village together in harmony. They knew that magic was a quiet companion to their routines, and it was the way of Mbali to honor it by keeping their secrets close. In this village, where magic was woven into the fabric of life, lived Zuri. She was a girl who radiated warmth and kindness, and her beauty drew admiration from every corner of the village. Her presence seemed to embody the spirit of Mbali, an old-world grace paired with an unfailing gentleness that enchanted everyone around her. But there was something more, something just below the surface that none could quite understand. She was as much a part of the village as the ancient trees and winding pathways, yet always seemed to remain slightly out of reach, like a bird whose heart belongs to the sky. Each day, Zuri would set up her small stall at the market, her hands skillfully arranging handmade trinkets and goods that she would offer to the villagers. As customers approached, they would feel a comfort in her presence that went beyond the beauty of her face or the warmth of her smile. Some said that her laugh could ease the heaviest heart, and her voice was as gentle as the lullabies mothers sang to their children at dusk. Yet as familiar as Zuri was to the village, there was a part of her that nobody truly knew. Despite her daily presence in the market, no one knew where she lived, who her family was, or even much about her life beyond her daily routine. She was both known and unknown, a mystery wrapped in a warm smile and kind gestures. Her evenings were spent slipping quietly into the shadows, vanishing from sight, leaving behind only a faint memory of her laughter and the lingering beauty of her smile. People wondered, whispering quietly in the safety of their homes. Children would look for glimpses of her at twilight, while elders would tell stories, hoping to unravel her mystery. Yet, despite all the questions and the quiet speculation, Zuri's secret life remained her own. Then one day a stranger arrived in Mbali. He was a strikingly handsome man named Tao, with a look of confidence that seemed to carry an unspoken promise of adventure. Tao was the sort of man who had seen much of the world, or so the villagers imagined. He was calm and charming, and it didn't take long for him to notice Zuri, his curiosity piqued by her quiet beauty. Drawn to her like a moth to a flame, he found himself returning to the marketplace each day, eager for a chance to see her, to share even a few words. Tao began to visit Zuri's stall daily, their conversations growing longer with each passing day. He would listen intently to her stories, captivated by her voice and the way her words seemed to carry a world of emotions hidden just beneath the surface. The villagers watched with amusement, whispering about the handsome newcomer and the enigmatic girl who had captured his attention. It was almost as if Tao had arrived with a purpose, one that he was only beginning to understand. Their friendship blossomed, and before long, Tao was offering to walk Zuri home in the evenings. Though she would always politely decline, he persisted. One evening, determined to finally see where she lived, he gently insisted on accompanying her. Reluctantly, she agreed, leading him down a winding path that twisted and turned, deeper into the shadows at the edge of the village. The further they walked, the more the air grew heavy, thick with an unspoken tension that made Tao's pulse quicken. The usual sounds of the village faded, replaced by a silence so complete it seemed unnatural. An unsettling feeling washed over him, one that he couldn't quite shake. Just as they reached a small clearing, something stirred in the shadows, a flicker of movement that was almost imperceptible. Tao felt a chill crawl down his spine, his instincts screaming at him to turn back. Glancing over at Zuri, he saw a look of quiet sadness in her eyes, as if she, too, was aware of the unseen presence surrounding them. Overwhelmed by a sudden wave of fear, Tao found himself backing away, his steps unsteady as he retreated into the darkness. He didn't know what he had encountered that night, but it left him deeply unsettled, and for the first time, he felt a genuine hesitation about his newfound fascination with Zuri. What Tao didn't know was that Zuri's life held secrets even she struggled to understand. She came from a lineage as old as the ancient forest that bordered Umbali, a family steeped in mysticism and magic, a family that dwelled not only in the village but also in realms unseen by human eyes. They were guardians of the old ways, keepers of traditions and powers that had been passed down through generations. Unlike the other villagers, they didn't just live alongside magic. They embodied it, moving seamlessly between the visible and invisible worlds. This dual existence had always been a part of Zuri's life, shaping her identity in ways she couldn't escape, no matter how much she longed to be free. Her family disapproved of her growing attachment to Tao. They viewed humans with suspicion, wary of their unpredictable nature and the potential harm they could bring to their hidden world. To them, Tao was a threat, an outsider who could disrupt the delicate balance between their world and the human realm. They made it clear to Zuri that Tao's presence was unwelcome, casting a shadow over her budding feelings for him. They didn't want her mingling too closely with humans, afraid that her heart might lead her down a path from which there was no return. As the days passed, Zuri found herself torn between two worlds, the family she loved and the desire for a life beyond the constraints of their traditions. She felt a longing for freedom, a desire to explore the possibilities of a life unbound by the magical chains of her heritage. Her heart ached to experience love, to find someone who could see her for who she was, without the shadows of her family's expectations hanging over her. And so, in a moment of courage, she made a decision that would change everything. She chose to walk away from her family, to seek her own path, one that she hoped would lead her to the happiness she had always dreamed of. But her family did not take her choice lightly. Feeling betrayed by her decision to turn her back on their ways, they responded with a force as ancient as the forest itself, a curse, cast in anger and sorrow, designed to keep her bound to their world in ways she could never escape. The curse was simple, yet powerful. She would never find lasting happiness with a human, no matter how deeply she might love or be loved in return. It was a binding that would follow her for as long as she lived, a constant reminder of the world she had left behind. Yet even in the face of this curse, Zuri remained resolute. She chose to stay in Umbali, clinging to the hope that, somehow, love would conquer the darkness that now shadowed her path. She convinced herself that perhaps the curse would fade over time, or that, if she loved fiercely enough, she could break it through sheer force of will. It was a faint hope, but it was all she had, and she held on to it with every ounce of strength she possessed. As the seasons turned, fate brought a new figure into Zuri's life. A merchant named Bayo, whose charm and wit quickly won her over. Bayo was different from the others. He had a lightness about him, a warmth that made her feel safe, as if, for the first time, she had found someone who could understand her, even without knowing her secrets. They spent countless evenings together, laughing, sharing stories, and dreaming of a future that seemed within reach. Before long, Bayo proposed, and Zuri, heart full of hope, accepted, daring to believe that perhaps love could indeed defy fate. But when they traveled to meet Bayo's family, the shadows of her past returned. Bayo's mother, wise and intuitive, sensed something unusual about her. She couldn't explain it, but she felt a darkness that she couldn't ignore, a feeling that something wasn't right. Though she couldn't pinpoint what it was, she voiced her disapproval, insisting that Bayo reconsider. Crushed, Zuri returned to Umbali, the weight of her family's curse pressing down upon her once again. It seemed that no matter how far she tried to escape, the past would always find a way to catch up with her. With each heartbreak, the reality of her curse settled deeper into her soul. She began to wonder if she would ever be free, if happiness was a dream forever out of her reach. But even as her hope faded, a quiet resilience grew within her, a determination to face whatever life might bring. She had chosen this path, and she would walk it, no matter how many shadows lay ahead. Zuri's heart grew heavy with the weight of loneliness as the days passed in Mbali. Each night she would sit beneath the ancient trees that framed the village, gazing up at the stars and wondering if she would ever find the peace and companionship she longed for. The memory of Bayo's rejection still stung deeply, his mother's words echoing in her mind as a reminder of the curse her family had placed on her. She began to feel trapped, a prisoner in her own life, tethered to a fate she could not escape. Though her spirit was resilient, she knew she needed help if she was ever to break free from the invisible chains that bound her heart. In her desperation, Zuri decided to return to the shrine of Nyoka, a powerful spirit revered by the people of Mbali. Nyoka's presence was felt throughout the village. Her essence seemed to be woven into the trees, the rivers, and even the wind itself. Many sought Nyoka's wisdom, for she was known to be both merciful and exacting, capable of granting blessings but also holding to the strict laws of the mystical world. People spoke of her with a mix of reverence and caution, for she saw through all facades, and her judgments were said to be beyond human comprehension. One evening, with her heart burdened and her resolve hardened, Zuri made her way to Nyoka's shrine, a hidden place deep within the forest, known only to those who had the courage to seek it. The path was treacherous, winding through dense thickets and mist-covered groves. As she walked, Zuri felt the forest closing in around her, as if testing her determination. Shadows flitted through the trees, and eerie whispers echoed in the stillness. Yet she pressed on, her footsteps steady, as she approached the place of power. When she reached the shrine, she knelt before it, humbled and hopeful. She called out to Nyoka, her voice a soft plea that seemed to blend with the wind. Slowly, the air grew heavy, and a shimmering presence appeared before her, forming into the shape of an ethereal woman cloaked in light and shadow. Nyoka's gaze was piercing, her expression unreadable as she looked upon Zuri with a mixture of curiosity and understanding. Zuri explained her plight, speaking of the curse that bound her and the heartache she had endured. She begged Nyoka to help her, to grant her the freedom to love and be loved without fear. Nyoka listened in silence, her eyes narrowing as she considered Zuri's words. Finally, she spoke, her voice as ancient as the forest itself, each word carrying the weight of centuries. "I will help you, child," Nyoka said, her tone both kind and severe. "But know this, curses are not broken so easily. You may find temporary relief, but only if you remain calm and steadfast in all that you do. Should you let anger, fear, or sadness consume you, the curse will return with a force even I cannot quell. Are you prepared to bear this responsibility?" Zuri nodded, her heart filled with gratitude. She promised Nyoka that she would do everything in her power to maintain her composure, no matter what trials life might bring. With a nod, Nyoka extended her hand, and a soft, warm light enveloped Zuri, a gentle energy that seemed to seep into her very soul. She felt the weight of the curse lift, if only slightly, as if a shadow had been banished from her heart. Renewed in spirit, she returned to the village, hopeful that her life might finally change. In the weeks that followed, Zuri's life took on a brighter hue. She went about her days with a lightness she hadn't felt in years, her heart no longer burdened by the looming shadow of the curse. It was during this time that she met Ayodele, a gentle man who possessed a kindness and patience that set him apart from others. Unlike the villagers who were enchanted by her beauty or mysterious past, Ayodele saw Zuri for who she truly was, a woman burdened by secrets and struggles, yet radiant in her strength. Ayodele and Zuri spent countless hours together, their friendship blossoming into something deeper with each passing day. He was patient with her, never pressing for answers or probing into the mysteries of her past. Instead, he simply enjoyed her presence, allowing their bond to grow naturally. He was different from anyone she had ever known, his quiet steadiness a balm to her weary soul. When he finally proposed, she felt a glimmer of hope, a fragile yet brilliant light that whispered of a future free from her family's curse. Zuri accepted his proposal, her heart filled with a tentative joy she hadn't dared to feel in years. The villagers celebrated their engagement, cheering for the woman they had come to admire, and the man who had won her heart. Together, they planned a simple wedding, one that would honor both the traditions of Umbali and the quiet love that had grown between them. Zuri dared to dream of a life filled with peace and happiness, a life free from the curse that had haunted her for so long. The wedding day arrived, a beautiful celebration beneath the open sky, with family and friends gathered to witness their union. Zuri felt as if she were living in a dream, the love in Ayodele's eyes a promise of the life they would build together. As the sun set and the stars began to emerge, the village celebrated, their laughter and music filling the air with a joy that seemed to echo into the night. But when the festivities came to an end, and Zuri and Ayodele were left alone to share their first night as husband and wife, the curse reawakened with a fury she could not contain. As she looked into Ayodele's eyes, feeling the full weight of her love for him, a sharp pain seized her heart. She gasped, clutching her chest, as an overwhelming force took hold of her, her body contorting as the curse surged through her veins. In an instant, her form began to shift, her body elongating, her skin transforming into gleaming scales. Ayodele watched in horror as his beloved bride transformed before his eyes, her face morphing into the head of a giant python. He stumbled back, his eyes wide with terror, unable to comprehend the sight before him. The woman he had loved, the woman he had promised to cherish, had become a creature of nightmare. Panicked, Ayodele fled from their home, his footsteps echoing through the silent night as he disappeared into the darkness. Alone in her transformed state, Zuri felt the crushing weight of her family's curse bear down upon her. She knew that her dream of a happy life with Ayodele was over, shattered by the curse that had followed her like a shadow. Heartbroken and humiliated, she retreated to the depths of the forest, seeking refuge from the prying eyes of the village. News of the wedding night horror spread quickly through Umbali, the villagers whispering in fear and confusion. Rumors flew, each tale more elaborate than the last. Some claimed that Zuri had always been a snake, hiding her true nature beneath a human facade. Others believed she was cursed by dark magic, doomed to live her life as a creature of the night. The village elders, desperate to understand what had happened, called upon the oracle, a revered figure whose wisdom was said to rival that of the ancient spirits. When the oracle arrived, she summoned both Zuri and Ayodele to appear before her, demanding to hear the truth of what had transpired. Ayodele, ashamed and broken, confessed his initial attraction to Zuri had been driven by a selfish desire to claim her beauty for himself. He admitted that he had never truly understood her, that his love had been shallow and self-serving. The oracle listened in silence, her gaze sharp and discerning as she weighed his words. Turning to Zuri, the oracle asked her to speak her truth. With a voice trembling yet resolute, Zuri recounted her journey, her love for Ayodele, and the burden of the curse that had haunted her life. She spoke of her family, their mistrust of humans, and the sacrifice she had made to seek a life beyond the confines of her magical heritage. The oracle considered their stories, her face expressionless as she deliberated. Finally she spoke, her voice carrying the weight of an unbreakable decree. Ayodele, your love was flawed, driven by desire rather than understanding. You sought to possess what you did not truly know, and in doing so, you have condemned yourself. You will remain with Zuri, bound by the promise you made on your wedding day. Together, you will face the trials of life, learning the meaning of true love and acceptance. The oracle's judgment was final, binding Ayodele and Zuri together as they embarked on a new path, one that would lead them far from the familiar sights and sounds of Umbali into the heart of the mystical forest, where Zuri's family and her magical heritage awaited. Reluctant, yet resigned, Ayodele followed Zuri deeper into the forest, each step taking him further from the world he had known. In the shadowed paths and beneath the ancient trees, her presence felt both familiar and strange, as if he were seeing her for the first time. When they arrived, Zuri's family received them with wary acceptance, their eyes holding the weight of centuries of secrets. They allowed Ayodele to enter their world, but their gazes were cautious, watchful, as if assessing whether he could truly be part of their realm. The mystical forest seemed alive, teeming with hidden life and whispers that lingered in the cool air, and it challenged everything he thought he understood. The transition was not easy. Each day brought new trials, new mysteries that defied the logic of the world Ayodele had known. He learned to walk paths that twisted into hidden dimensions, paths where the boundary between the physical and the magical blurred. The trees spoke in creaks and whispers, the rivers seemed to sing, and the creatures that moved in the shadows were unlike anything he had ever seen. Ayodele's former arrogance melted away, replaced by a quiet reverence for this world he had once dismissed as mere superstition. Through his time in the forest, Ayodele found himself humbled. The tasks he once thought simple took on new dimensions here. Fetching water was a journey through enchanted streams that held secrets in their depths, and gathering wood involved navigating trees that seemed to shift and move, hiding their branches as if alive. Every act required patience and respect for the forest's rhythms, and slowly, he began to understand the true meaning of coexisting with the magical world. Most of all, he came to understand the depth of Zuri's heart and the strength of her spirit. She was not merely the beautiful woman who had enchanted him in Mbali. She was a force of resilience and wisdom, shaped by both love and sorrow. Her life in the forest, her family's expectations, and the weight of her curse had given her a quiet strength that he had failed to see before. For the first time, he began to love her not for her outward charm, but for the courage she carried within. As days turned to months, they grew closer, learning to lean on each other through the challenges of their new life. Together, they created a home in the forest, blending human traditions with the mystical practices of Zuri's family. Ayodele embraced his role, not as a man seeking control, but as a partner who understood the beauty of shared strength. The forest accepted him slowly, as if testing his intentions, until one day, he felt truly at peace within its bounds, no longer an outsider. In time, Zuri's family grew to accept Ayodele as well. They saw the transformation in him, recognizing the humility and respect that had replaced his old arrogance. They shared their stories with him, teaching him the ancient songs and secrets of the forest, and slowly, he became woven into the very fabric of their mystical world. As Ayodele and Zuri's love deepened, the curse that had once bound them seemed to lose its hold. Together, they forged a life of harmony, blending the human and magical worlds, living each day with gratitude for the love they had found. They became a legend within the village of Mbali, their story passed down as a reminder of the power of love, acceptance, and the courage to embrace one's true self. If this story has captured your heart, let your engagement bring it to life. Every like, comment, and subscription breathes new magic into these tales, fueling the creation of more stories from hidden worlds and mystical lands. Your support helps keep the magic alive, allowing these enchanted realms to reach others.